The sand moves, not from wind, not from rain. Something beneath it is alive. In the pale hour before dawn, a patch of beach begins to tremble, grain by grain sliding inward, collapsing like a held breath finally released. It is not an earthquake. It is not the tide. It is 100 small heartbeats working together in the dark. But the strangest part isn't that they are hatching. It's that they already know where they're going. No mother waits above them. No guide leads the way. And yet, in the next few minutes, this scattering of impossibly small lives will make a decision that determines The real story begins in the sand, in the dark, in a race that has been run the same way for over 100 million years. Long before there was sand, there was ocean. Somewhere beyond the breakers, adult green sea turtles drift through blue water lit gold by the late afternoon sun. The real story begins in the sand, in the dark, in a race that has been run the same way for over 100 million years. They move without apparent effort, front flippers sweeping in long, unhurried arcs, as if gravity itself has forgotten them. Reef fish part and reform around the turtle's slow passage. Their eyes are dark and ancient-looking, set into a face that seems permanently calm, untroubled by the great distances that define its life. But not yet. For now, there is only water, light, and time. That, too, is about to change.
When the breeding season arrives, something ancient stirs.
Females who have spent years, sometimes decades, feeding far from shore begin to turn toward land. The very beach where they themselves hatched. How they find it remains one of the ocean's quiet mysteries. Some scientists believe they read the Earth's magnetic field like a map memorized at birth.
Night after night, a female hauls her heavy body out of the surf and onto sand that remembers her, though she has never touched it since the day she left it.
It is a strange sight, an animal built for weightlessness, dragging herself across land that offers her no grace at all.
She pauses often. She breathes heavily, and still, she keeps moving.
But she does not stop at the water's edge. She climbs beyond the reach of the tide, beyond the line of dry seaweed, into the soft sand where the real work begins. What happens next has never been witnessed by the eyes she is protecting.
Under a sky scattered with stars, an elderly African-American woman begins to dig.
Scooping, shaping, hollowing out a chamber deep enough to hide what she is about to leave behind. Sand sprays in soft arcs behind her. The rhythm is patient, almost meditative, each movement identical to the one before it. There is no nest of twigs, no woven grass, only sand, shaped by instinct. When the chamber is ready, she lays her eggs, pale, soft-shelled, and vulnerable, dropping silently into the hollow one after another. In the dim light, her eyes appear to glisten, though this is simply a gland clearing sand and salt, not sorrows. 100 small lives, entrusted to a hole in the ground, and then she covers them. She smites. Then, without ceremony, without looking back, she turns toward the sea and disappears into the surf.
But this was only the beginning.
Beneath the sand, the real transformation begins. Hidden, silent, and slow. For nearly 2 months, the eggs rest in constant, humid darkness. Warmth radiates down from the sun above. Above the nest, the beach carries on, as if nothing is happening. The temperature of the sand itself decides a detail as fundamental as sex. Warmer chambers tend to produce females, cooler ones tend to produce males. Crabs scuttle across the surface, waves rise and fall in their endless rhythm. Birds pass overhead, indifferent to what lies just beneath their shadows. But inside each egg, cells that began as almost nothing are folding themselves into shape. A spine curving into place, a shell beginning to harden. The greatest challenge had not yet arrived. It was still weeks away. And when it came, it would arrive all at once. A tiny appears across one shell, then another. Inside each shell, a fragile life pushes toward the only exit it has ever known, the space where its sibling's shell used to be whole. One by one, they break free. Damp, dark, and impossibly small, the leatherback sea turtle hatchlings claw their way upward through loosely packed sand, working together. It can take days for the group to finally reach the surface, and when they do, it is almost always at night. The sand shifts, breaks open. And into the cool night air rise dozens of snake hatchlings, no longer confined, no longer waiting.
This is where the story began.
But it is far from over. The beach at night is not empty. Ghost crabs wait at the edges of the nest. For a loggerhead sea turtle hatchling barely the size of a coin, every meter of open sand is a gauntlet. And yet they run, flippers churning against the sand in short, frantic bursts, drawn toward the brightest horizon.
Some hatchlings are caught before they reach the waterline. Others stumble, right themselves, and keep going.
It is not a gentle scene, and the film does not look away from it. Only a fraction of this hurried multitude will make it to the sea at all.
Then, finally, the water. A wave rushes up the sand and lifts a loggerhead sea turtle hatchling clean off its feet, pulling it backward into the surf for the very first time.
Outside waited a completely different world.
Once submerged, everything changes. The clumsy, vulnerable creature that struggled across the sand becomes small flippers that once dragged through sand now cut cleanly through water, propelling the hatchling out past the breakers and into deeper currents. For the next stretch of its life, much of it remains a mystery even to those who study it closely. Young sea turtles vanish into the open ocean, but this too was only a chapter. Growth here is unhurried, patient, invisible to the world above the waves.
What happened next would decide everything.
Years pass in currents no camera can easily follow. The hatchling that once fit in the palm of a hand slowly becomes something. The turtle grows bold enough to leave the shelter of floating weed, confident enough to graze in open water, strong enough to outswim most of what once threatened it.
But somewhere ahead, waiting in a future it cannot yet sense, the sand remembers.
Decades later, something ancient stirs again. A green sea turtle, broad-shelled, sure in its movements, utterly
Not any shore. The same stretch of coastline where its own journey first began.
The water grows shallow. The current changes.
And then, in the dark hours before dawn, a heavy shape emerges from the surf, dragging itself wind. The awkwardness of land has not left her. She moves the same way her mother once did, slow.
She climbs beyond the tide line. She begins, once again, to dig.
The circle that opened in darkness, on a trembling patch of sand a lifetime ago, closes in darkness too. Beneath a familiar sky, on a beach she has never consciously remembered but has never truly forgotten, She lowers her life that began in a hidden chamber, buried in darkness, now returns to bury a chamber of its own. Nothing about this moment asks to be witnessed.